What's up and welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal. And tomorrow we see it's going to be an emotional start to this game because it is the Kevin Campbell derby. Kevin Campbell, greatly loved by all, both at Everton and Arsenal. So this is or has become the Kevin Campbell derby. And I think it's a good reminder of the importance of things beyond football and titles and what being a fan really means. Kevin Campbell was definitely an Arsenal fan. He was Arsenal through and through, loved the club and gave everything when he played for us. So there will be fitting tribute to him tomorrow. And for my part, rest in peace, an absolute legend. But of course, everybody is talking about this game in the context of Arsenal's title challenge, which if you listen to most people after the Fulham game, is a done deal anyway. There's no way we can beat Liverpool. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about this as a must-win game because over the last nearly 3 seasons, it has felt increasingly like every game is a must-win game. And when you're talking about the visit of Everton, a team that has only won 1 game away all season, only got 5 points on the road this season from 7 games. It's a different context to the must-win. Obviously, you have to beat teams like this at home. And I think a failure to do that would be because of something going wrong. There's just no way that this Arsenal team, the team that we saw demolish Monaco, really good performance against Monaco. I was frustrated at how many people came out and said, well, Monaco aren't a good team. You beat what's in front of you. We were profligate and that could easily have been a 5 or 6-0 scoreline. It feels like people are choosing to look at negatives. So you come out of a game like Monaco, you should be really happy with a 3-0 win. It was a good performance, if not a stellar performance. And then people are saying, we need a striker. And there's not much question about the fact that Gabby Jesus is in terrible form in front of goal. But he is still creating. He is still working hard. I don't think any of us expect him to start tomorrow. If we play similarly well to how we did against Monaco, look, we know how Everton are going to come. They're going to get about 35 to 40% of possession. They're going to try and score from free kicks. They're going to use the kind of dark arts that we're accused of using. I think mostly it's not justified that we are a dark arts team. And I don't think that Everton should take any heat for it either. You do what you can within the rules to gain an advantage. They're going to want to slow down the game. They want to disrupt the game. That's absolutely normal. Hit us on the break if they can. This week, of course, there's been talk of us signing or in for Calvert-Lewin. I can only assume that's his agent desperately trying to drum up some interest. He will be leaving Everton at the end of this season. And the other thing about Everton that I think is important to talk about is their fans. You know, they are loyal and they stick by them. They've had very little to cheer. They had that false dawn of hope that they were going to see massive investment. It hasn't come to anything. The opposite, in fact, it's caused them points deductions. So I don't begrudge Everton coming to the Emirates and doing the best they can on what will be an emotionally charged day. But to come back to the idea that every game is a must-win, other than this game, look, I think every home game you might be able to say is a must-win, but there are still going to be points dropped. Does anybody really think that Liverpool aren't going to drop points between now and the end of the season? The frustration for me in last weekend that Liverpool had their game cancelled, which couldn't have come at a better time really for them, gave them an extra bit of time off. And it meant that without even playing, they were able to gain some advantage over us and Man City. We did have a disappointing weekend, but hopefully the dust has settled a little bit. We are an incredibly up and down fan base. I'm not really riding that tide. Yes, I was disappointed we didn't play better against Fulham. I thought it was typified by completely unusual below par performance by Martin Odegaard. We know how much we missed him when he wasn't around. He just had a kid. And I think that Kai Havertz was another player who didn't play as well. These games will happen. If you're going to lose your mind because we're getting a away draw to a team that's 10th in the table when there's still 23 games left of the season, then I don't know if you're going to survive a title challenge. It will be close. Liverpool will drop points. I don't see them dropping points at home to Fulham. I don't think we would have done, to be honest with you. And game of small margins, we came really close. Their goal threat at the moment is coming through Mo Salah. All of the talk at the moment is that he's renewing. He is completely overperforming at the moment. Is that sustainable? If Liverpool win the league with Mo Salah on this kind of form, providing 70% of the goals, that's an iconic season. That would be a hell of an achievement. There's so much football still to play. Too much football, probably. The Champions League format, I was reflecting on it. Loved the game against Monaco, but I thought, in past seasons, we would be through now to the knockout stages. And yes, we'd have to play 2 more games, but we have to play 2 more games anyway. So we are, even if you finish in the top 8 of the Champions League, you still got to play an extra 2 games. It is a money generator, but it doesn't help teams with slightly smaller squads. Injuries are a thing everywhere. And that brings me to tomorrow's potential lineup. The good news is that Gabriel is supposed to be fit. In fact, a lot of the speculation is that he would have been fit to play Monaco, but was rested because it's more likely we're going to need our physically scrappy centre-back against Everton than it was against Monaco. And I think that played out. I thought it was really interesting Miles Lewis-Skelly got his start. Highlight of the one of the highlights of the season for me so far. I'm a huge fan of Miles Lewis-Skelly. I think in terms of character, he does seem to have absolutely everything for me. I see him as a future captain of the club, more in the midfield role. Talk about the midfield role a little bit, and I could see him starting tomorrow. Hasn't he done enough to do that? It is. You have to laugh though, don't you? Of all the positions that we're struggling in. At the start of the season, if you told me the biggest problem we were going to have was at left back, we have 7 players who can play there. I'm including Tierney in that, although increasingly it looks like the kit man's got more chance of getting on the pitch than Tierney. And I don't know why. It was surprising to me that Tierney didn't start against Monaco, particularly in light of the fact that Arteta gave him such a glowing tribute in his press conference, said he was ready for his opportunity, didn't get it. You have to wonder, in the pecking order, I think at the moment it goes Tierney, Tomiyasu, and just talking about the left side of defence, Tierney, Tomiyasu, Jacob Kivior, Miles Lewis-Skelly now, Zinni, Calafiori, and then probably Timber if Ben White was fit. So the fact that we're that far down the pecking order that we're playing Kieran Tierney, that we were considering playing Kieran Tierney, speaks a lot to the injuries we've had. And those are part of modern football. You only have to listen to Pep Guardiola moaning about how he hasn't got his team. So for tomorrow's lineup, I personally don't see what would be wrong with starting Miles Lewis-Skelly, but given that he had to bring him off after 60-something minutes, maybe he's worried he doesn't have 90 minutes. And against Everton is going to be a fairly physical match. So if Gabriel is fit, I could see Jacob Kivior at the back. He does like the tall centre-backs playing in full-back positions. And then on the right, we should be able to play Timber, who I think looks much better on the right. Saliba and Gabriel as centre-backs ahead of David Raya. It's not necessarily the first choice back 4, but we've been really unlucky in being able to play that first choice back 4. And there are a lot of games to come. So I think that's as good as it's going to get for us. Then we come to if Timber is playing on the right and Thomas Partey doesn't have to play there. And frankly, I really hope he doesn't play him there. I don't think it suits him. And he's been playing really well in that defensive midfield position. That said, that's really Declan Rice's position. I think if there is a mega mind going on, and now to some degree it does look like Arteta overcomplicates, I think Declan Rice, Mourinho and Odegaard looks the natural first choice if you have to put your best 11 out there. I much prefer Declan Rice in a 6. For now, anyway. You can talk about development all you like. And then obviously Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz on the right and centre forward positions. But the big question is Martinelli. But the big question, really, I think, for tomorrow's game is, will we see Martinelli or will we see Trossard? Or might we see Raheem Sterling? Because Arteta's been talking about how surprised he was that he hasn't been able to give Raheem Sterling more game time. It's a weird thing to say, isn't it? If you're a manager, surely you can't be surprised at how little time you've given a player. He talks about what a positive influence he is on the other players. But we didn't sign him for that. And I know we're not paying most of his wages, but we probably do need to try something different. Trossard and Martinelli is the question, though, because I don't think, Arteta surprises us, but I don't think it's going to be Sterling out on the left. So who would you pick? Let me know in the comments, because increasingly the narrative has turned against Martinelli. People will tell you that he's just not as good, or he's dropping, or his form's gone. And I don't think that's really, statistically, that is not the case. Statistically, he's actually having a slightly better season than he did last season. And I know last season was disappointing, set against the really good season he'd had, season ending 23. He cut a frustrated figure against Monaco, could easily have been sent off. He looks like he's struggling a little bit, and that's since the international break. But the season on a whole is actually not bad. He's outperforming the goals you'd expect him to. He's on 3 goals. Remember, he only got 6 in all of last season from 24 starts. He's had 9 this season. He's on 3. He's provided 2 assists, which is not the strongest part of Martinelli's game. He needs to have more shots. He needs to have... his shots on target relative to his actual shots is better than Saka. So people talk about how Trossard is really clinical. For me, I don't know how controversial this is going to be, but for me, I feel like Trossard's been... There's something not quite right with him at the moment. A little bit too selfish, not enough of a team player. Something weird about that non-celebration. I don't really think I've felt the same about him since then. I prefer Martinelli to start with Trossard as an option off the bench, and the other way around I don't think works as well. That's what I expect Arteta to do tomorrow, because for me, Martinelli's slight dip in form is nothing like as bad as people are saying. He's not miles off it. He could still have a really good season. In terms of dribbles, he can definitely improve back to where he was 2 years ago. He's not quite winning the duels, but I wonder how much of it, and it's been talked about elsewhere, how much of it is to do with the midfield partnership. Obviously, his best season was Granit Xhaka's last season, where he was rampaging into the midfield. He was good defensive cover. We had Zinchenko inverting. There was more support for Martinelli. Now, he plays a role in stretching the game out on the left. He does cruise in from that left and put himself in good positions. I like the goal against Chelsea. I thought for me, he hasn't looked all that bad, but in the last 4 or 5 games, he's definitely hit a bit of a downturn. So the question is, when a player hits a slight slump in 4 or 5 games, do you withdraw them and play Trossard, whose numbers aren't really any better, or do you just play Martinelli through it? I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are. I'm going to go with Martinelli. Because, you don't have to play him for much. If he starts off really badly or he's ineffective, then you're going to hook him in the 60th, 70th minute, depending on how bad he is, maybe even half-time. And if he isn't, and he gets a goal, and he's back on form, then we might start to see the Martinelli we'd all hoped. I don't think that a lot of the criticism for Martinelli is just coming from his performances. I think it's by contrast to Bukayo Saka. He hasn't kicked on in the way that Saka has. But who has? We've seen conversations in the last few years about, is Saka as good as Foden? We're not seeing that now. It's other players that he's being compared with, and I think all of that's silly and trivial. We know what we've got. I don't think he's a star boy anymore. I think he's just a star. Seeing him in the post-match interview talking about Miles Lewis-Skelly, and with Miles Lewis-Skelly to look up to him, it just makes you proud, doesn't it, as an Arsenal fan? So I'm starting with Martinelli tomorrow. My prediction is I'm just going to be really boring and go with the stats. What the stats say, that it should be by 2 clear goals. So I think we'll win 3-1, 3-1, 2-1. I'm plumping for 3-1 because that's the statistically most probable outcome. As I said, Everton I would expect to have about 35% of the game. They are dangerous from set pieces, but not as dangerous as us. And we win this game. And of course, the first thing everyone will do when we're all celebrating another job well done, an element of our fan base will be saying, well, you have to beat Everton, and they move on to the next thing. I think we need to celebrate the life of Kevin Campbell before the kickoff. We need to celebrate football, being a fan, and what it means, because it is more than just trophies. And I know we all want to see trophies, But if you don't enjoy anything till you get the trophy, then what's the point? Right? What is the point? You get one trophy for having the most points in 38 games. So enjoy the games as well. And I hope we enjoy tomorrow, although I don't want to jinx us. But let me know in the comments what your score prediction is. And rest in peace, Kevin Campbell. Until I see all of you again, be lucky. Lots of love.